So, it's no secret that I am a huge fan of Batman and DC Comics. I've been gushing over Batman in particular ever since I was excreting in my nappies and trying to force Lego bricks down my esophagus. I was exposed to him through this DVD set my mum got me, which contained both Tim Burton's and Joel Schumacher's live-action Batman movies, and fell in love instantly, and that love only accelerated with the Batman Arkham games and the graphic novels. I was always a hardcore Batman fan, and naturally that fascination leaked over to the extended DC cast as well. I'm kind of indifferent towards Marvel properties, probably because I don't consume enough soy products to really give a shit, which has put me under the ire of a lot of people, but admittedly, Blade is still the GOAT.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
DC has always had it good when it came to their TV shows specifically. Batman the Animated Series is seen as an untouched classic, even though I've only watched a few episodes. Yeah, no, please don't throw me into a vat of acid over it. Teen Titans is generation defying. Gotham, despite jumping the sharks so much that it needed bat shark repellent to fend off all those sharks, was crazily entertaining and overall a pretty fun watch. But there is one show that I just finished watching recently that's blown me away, and that is Green Lantern the Animated Series. And can I just say that this show is a masterpiece and severely overlooked, and it seems to be forgotten to time. Plus there's only about 3 reviews of it on YouTube, so I thought I'd have my say, since I can critique it from an animator's perspective as well. So, without further ado, I'm Ryker Productions, and enjoy my review of Green Lantern the Animated Series. Green Lantern the Animated Series was a 3D animated TV show airing from 2011 to 2013 on Cartoon Network, and boy, they were lucky to air this gem. It was also the very first 3D animated DC Comics and Warner Bros. Show, and only ended up getting 1 season due to low ratings and toy sales, because it's blatantly obvious that capitalist execs only care about numbers and not the actual quality of the products they make.
Hello, I like money.
People also theorise that the Green Lantern movie starring Ryan Reynolds that released in 2011 and the negative reception that received might have affected the viewing figures of this, but that's not been confirmed. I've not actually watched the Green Lantern movie myself as of making this video, but I do know that it has an extremely negative reputation. But hey, I've consumed stuff that have had bad reputations overall but ended up liking it and vice versa. The series begins with Green Lantern Hal Jordan of Sector 2814. That's the Milky Way galaxy, by the way. And his other Green Lantern friend, Kilowog, as they attend a meeting in front of the Guardians, who inform them that the Red Lanterns have been murdering Green Lanterns in faraway frontier space. As seen in the cold open of the first episode, and are instructed to investigate the situation. They come across a new experimental spaceship on their home planet of Oa, and hijack it into frontier space, but turns out the ship has its own functioning AI named Aya. In frontier space, they meet another Green Lantern and go to his home planet, where they are invaded by the Red Lanterns led by the ruthless Atrocitus, who eventually blows up the entire planet and escapes. The aftermath leads them to find Red Lantern Razor, who they imprison and keep on the ship, but due to the ship being damaged in the space battle that they had previously, they are unable to make it back to Oa in an instant and must wait 18 months to arrive there. Due to this, Razor tags along with the team and learns to get on with them, and the AI eventually takes a physical form too. They must find a way to easily get home and pursue the Red Lanterns at the same time. So that was a little synopsis of the beginning for you. Don't worry, I'm not one of those reviewers that describe the entire plot beat by beat, but I figure a little intro would have been good to show just how awesome this series is. But there will probably be spoilers going on from here on out, so if you don't want to hear it, then put on your rainbow lantern ring of gayness and fly out of here. Can I just say that what shocked me the most about this show was the fact that this ain't your average Saturday morning cartoon. You'd expect a show like this to be an episodic show where every episode has its own self-contained story and you can watch them in any order, but this has a full episode by episode story arc that runs throughout its entire 26 episode run. Due to it only being 26 episodes long, it never feels like it overstays its welcome, nor drags on for too long. That's my main gripe with American TV in particular, is that the shows go on for way too fucking long, and it feels like a slog to get through. Gotham is noticeably guilty of that, with each season being almost a day long, but this show is just right in terms of length. It also takes itself fairly seriously too, and gives its amazing characters arcs and development as the series goes on, and isn't stuffed to the brim with shitty, cringy Reddit tier humour. The series is technically split into 2 arcs. The first 13 episodes revolve around them trying to stop GLtAS and his Red Lantern Armada from reaching Oa before they do, as GLtAS wants to enact revenge on the Guardians, since they're responsible for his home planet being destroyed and his race almost being completely wiped out. The last 13 revolve around them trying to stop the Anti-Monitor, who is a robot who wants to destroy all organic and emotional life. However, the ship's AI, Aya, after having an existential crisis and developing emotions, collides with the Anti-Monitor and takes over his body and the army of Manhunt machines and turns evil. And of course, she's got to get a new dark and edgy colour scheme to reflect the fact that she's turned bad, because of course it's always like that, isn't it? But fair play to them, I genuinely didn't see that coming. That was a real surprise since it had actual appropriate build up to it too. As the series progresses, you learn a lot more about the Green Lantern lore and universe, and more Lantern Corps are eventually introduced. You see the Star Sapphire Lantern Corps of Love, witness the origins of the Blue Lantern Corps of Hope, and very late into the show they encounter the Orange Lantern Corps of Greed, which only has 1 member. However, the Yellow Lantern Corps of Fear was purposefully left out of the show, since they wanted to focus on the more obscure Lantern Corps inside of the Green Lantern lore, and the Ryan Reynolds movie featured them heavily too. But Sinestro, the Yellow Lantern Corps leader, does appear for an episode, but before his villainous arc happens. But I don't mind that, as even with them omitted, this is still fire and packed to the brim with quality content. Even though there's a lot to cover with the Green Lantern mythos, I feel like if you aren't knowledgeable in it beforehand, you can still get a good grasp of it, since it slowly drip feeds the viewer pieces of lore and concepts very cleverly. As some nerdy virgin who has an encyclopedic knowledge of the Green Lantern and DC universe, this made me feel very happy. Because remember guys, it's socially acceptable to have an encyclopedic knowledge of cars and football, but not the DC universe. I mean, come on, I have tried touching grass multiple times but was repelled by it every single time. All 26 episodes were a blast to watch, plus, the show's climax literally takes place at the beginning of universe and creation itself. I guarantee no one would have expected that to happen when they started watching it. I was gonna say that was the big climactic battle, but it wasn't, as that was actually the battle between every Green Lantern member and the Manhunters. I felt a bit disappointed by that battle, as I was expecting every Lantern Corps and character that showed up previously to join in, but maybe that would have been a bit too ambitious, especially in the show that was already ambitious enough as it was. But either way, this show's plot is absolutely amazing. So let's talk about the characters that feature in it then, shall we? The characters in this show are absolutely incredible, not only in its main cast but also with its side characters too. The lead of the show, Hal Jordan, or the titular Green Lantern, is a cocky, confident rule breaker, but looks out for his friends, and I wouldn't really say he's overconfident in his abilities, and he knows how to work well on a team. Overall, he's alright. His best pal Kilowog has more of a militaristic and strict personality, and doesn't really break the rules as much. He isn't even the muscle of the group, which is what you would think by looking at him and his design. The only real arc that he gets is detesting Razor in the beginning to breaking down crying over seeing him leave at the end, and he bounces off of Hal and the others really well. The side characters are all pretty unique and well realised. Carol Farris, aka Star Sapphire, Saint Walker and GLtAS were fun in the occasional episodes they featured in, and it's here where I must compliment the voice acting too. Every character is voiced appropriately, and it really does bring these previously obscure characters to life and have some depth to them.
All this time I thought you were dead. Well, now you're gonna wish you were dead.
Who are you supposed to be?
I am merely the conduit of the great hope that surrounds us all. I am Saint Walker, and I believe I am the first Blue Lantern in the universe.
I am GLtAS, Lord and Master of the Red Lantern Corps. I'm the one who will destroy the Guardians and all they stand for.
Although one of the voices of the Guardians sounds exactly like Stewie Griffin's voice, and I can't stop thinking about it.
What happened to your sector was a tragedy. But our willingness to ignore the tragedy we caused was a crime.
Mum! 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 Mummy! Mummy! Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
I'm Batman.
I just wish that the characters that I mentioned before would have showed up more, but oh well. I'm glad that Guy Gardner only showed up for 2 episodes though. He was an annoying prick, and I think that was the angle that they were going for, since he and Hal have a petty rivalry with each other to see who's the better Green Lantern of Sector 2814. I mean, they even added the fucking squirrel, the goddamn squirrel that's in the Green Lantern Corps, Chip. And he joins in the final fight too, and he actually helps out. Oh my god, it's so awesome! But no Dexter though, I'm disappointed. Instant 0 out of 10. Now let's mention the 2 new side characters they added in the show, Aya and Razor. Usually I find when something like this adds a completely original character, they don't really tend to stick or are just crappy characters in general. Harley Quinn is an exception to this, with her making her first appearance in Batman the Animated Series, and is now even more recognisable than the Joker. But these are also exceptions. As stated before, Aya is the ship's AI that eventually takes a physical form, and her development is great. Her story is the typical AI/robot developed sentience and emotions and sees humanity as weak for having said emotion shtick, but it's handled so excellently, plus her romance with Razor actually feels real and not forced whatsoever. Well, it's probably because her physical robot form was modeled after Razor's dead wife, but that's besides the point. Her character was a fun addition, and her death at the end was pretty heartbreaking given the fact that she snapped out of her genocidal phase at the end.
In that one moment, you could have struck me down. Why didn't you?
How could I kill you? My red energy constructs are powered by hate, and there is no hate in my heart for you, Aya.
But the real crowning star of the show here is Razor, the Red Lantern who is still popular to this day. As you can tell by his name, his parents were hardcore PC gamers and big fans of the Razor gaming peripheral company, so named their baby after him. He starts off working for the Red Lanterns and received his ring after his wife's death filled his heart with so much rage and hatred, but develops from being the rival of the main duo to eventually being best buddies with them and seeing the error of his ways. I thought he was going to be a complete edgelord, and although there were some scenes where that was true, he's a very tragic character, having lost 2 lovers by the end of the series. He kinda reminds me of Shadow the Hedgehog in a way. They both have similar backstories, personalities, designs, as well as being fan favourites. His character is just so sublime, and he steals every scene that he's in. The very last shot of the series sees him flying into deep space to find Aya. Even though she was clearly destroyed and her system was completely wiped, he still believes that she's out there. It truly shows just how dedicated he is to tapping her a bussy. Once you see him flying into the background, a Blue Lantern ring floats into the foreground and follows him, implying that he'll turn into a Blue Lantern, which is just awesome. I thought it was such a shame that the cliffhanger will never be resolved and we'll never get to see Razor as a Blue Lantern, but we actually did. When researching and scripting for this video, I found out that Razor returns in an episode of the animated show Young Justice in 2022, where, as you can see, he is indeed a Blue Lantern. I haven't seen this show, but the fact that it gets followed up in a completely different animated program, 9 years after Green Lantern the Animated Series concluded, is just... bruh, I'm absolutely speechless. Honestly. But, oh well, I think we talked enough about the plot and characters. Let's talk about the animation episodes as well, shall we? Alright, let's talk about the animation now, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, it's not jaw-dropping nor game-changing or anything, but it's still pretty impressive and looks very nice. I feel like with animated shows, their budgets do kind of restrict the animation quality a lot. You hear tales of how companies constantly cut corners with work and time constraints can screw them over. Hell, anime's most iconic traits are because of budgetary issues. I still find it unfair how shows get less money put into them than feature-length movies, since they're like 10 times the runtime, but oh well, life's unfair. But even with that said, the visuals look absolutely fire. As an animator myself who has dabbled in 3D animation in the past, I can tell you, that shit ain't easy. But the animators did a great job here, as the fight scenes are fluid and the character designs are great. They all have nice exaggeration to their features, stand out from each other and are stylized to high heaven. I think Hal Jordan's design is very reminiscent of the comic design of the character. You know, like the old Golden Age designs where it's like all the characters have like the squarish jawlines you'd ever see. It's impressive that they managed to pull off the huge space battles with a TV budget, and the show is quite pretty to look at, whether it be the well choreographed fight scenes or the scenes where characters are conversing with each other and getting the plot going. It's what I liked the most about Sonic Prime, is the fact that the animation in that looks really good too. I'm still left wondering how they did the glowing outlines around the lantern wing wielders when they're in space, but one complaint that I have is that the alien planets are kind of samey and are very uninspired. The music is also quite generic and not very memorable. Even the theme song is just a generic space opera score, but I guess it does get your attention. Okay, a little side tangent, but how come a lot of modern TV shows, animated and live action, don't have proper theme songs anymore? It's something that I've noticed a lot recently. Now some shows don't have dedicated songs written specifically for the opening titles, and the opening titles are just the logo and it lasts for like 10 seconds. I think that may be because of the rise of streaming services where, because of rapid instant access to this shit, normie viewers don't care if a show they're watching has a banger opening song, they just want to continue with the story. Like, I know that TikTok has screwed up Zoomers' brains to have no attention spans whatsoever, but I still want to hear a banger opening song, goddammit. I mean, Sonic Prime does it too, like just watch this.
What the hell is that?
Now compare that to Sonic X's opening song, which is a certified hood classic, although probably because it was anime, which still keeps that tradition. Okay, so back to Green Lantern the animated series. One final thing that I have to say is that the show has no filler whatsoever. Again, with a show that appeared on kids TV, you'd expect there to be unimportant filler. You know, an episode where the characters just fuck around and the plot doesn't go anywhere. The episodes you can afford to miss out on, but there's none of that here. Even an episode that you think would be filler later turns out not to be. For example, there's an episode where they visit a planet because a Green Lantern ring is there, and they discover that the planet itself is sentient and becomes a Green Lantern member. Okay, cool. But the planet shows up in a later episode to fight alongside Kilowog and St. Walker against the Red Lanterns. Plus, the main cast constantly revisit locations that they've been to before and meet up with side characters frequently. I guess the closest thing that you could say to being filler would be the Sinestro episode, because he doesn't show up again after that, and okay, you can kind of afford to skip that one, but you'd still be missing out as it's still really good. I mean, at the end of the day, does it really matter if it's filler? As long as it's still fun to watch, and I personally don't care. Also, I've got to give props to the aptly titled episode, Babel, where Hal Jordan, Kilowog and Razor are stranded on a hostile planet, and their rings completely drain of energy, and as a result, they can't understand each other since the rings translate each other's languages, which is an often overlooked feature of the Lantern Rings. This truly displays how well they work together and overcome any odds, even when they literally can't understand each other. This showed that the writers truly cared about the product and respected the source material. You have no idea just how refreshing that is. The writers really did care for this, and it showed because this show is amazing. Overall, I'd say that Green Lantern the animated series had me constantly hooked and subverted my expectations on many counts. I knew it had an overall positive reception and a bit of a cult following, but I didn't expect it to be an honest masterpiece of superhero storytelling. Kind of like how everyone's expectations got subverted when they watched Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, with many claiming that they were blown away by how good and full of soul it was. The visuals are stunning, the characters are incredible, and the series was a blast to watch from beginning to end. The series has no bad episodes, and I wouldn't really say that there was any episode that was mid or lackluster either. From a huge Green Lantern fan's perspective, this show is fire and made me feel blessed that we have this in all honesty. As stated before, this show has a cult following. I've seen numerous pieces of fan art and collages of shots from the show on Pinterest and Google Images, which shows that the fan base and memories that people have are still there and still going strong. It may not be as impactful as other superhero TV shows, I mean, it did get cancelled after one season after all, but you never know. Pantheon Stocking is reportedly getting the second season after all this time, so why can't this? This, alongside other media such as the Batman Arkham games, The Batman, the Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, and the Harley Quinn cartoon show are all prime examples of DC doing it right. It's just such a shame that people always focus on the negatives more than the positives, which is human nature after all. I remember in my first year of university we had to do presentations on who we thought the best superhero or comic character was, since there exists comics that don't feature superheroes too. One group picked Spider-Man, another group picked Deadpool, and my group picked Batman, and these two guys in the back of my class started giggling to each other and murmured something along the lines of, "Pfft, it's DC, it's crap, innit?" Which enraged me to the core and nearly made my blood boil. I may not have ventured into much of Marvel's catalogs of stuff, but there's probably some good stuff in there too. I didn't say that about their presentations because I'm a nice and respectful person. Anyway, small tangent aside, you get what I mean. In short, Green Lantern the Animated Series is a masterpiece, heavily overlooked and very underrated, so go check it out if you haven't. So this has been Rycab Productions, artist and animator, signing off. Make sure to like and subscribe, and feel free to follow my other social media pages as well, linked in the description. I feel like a review of this is probably going to be a one-time thing, since it's been a long time since I've reviewed anything really, and I much prefer doing animations, but this show deserves some recognition, and I'm going to give it its recognition with my 250 subscribers. So, without further ado, it's time to put on my LGBT rainbow ring and fly out of here.